My name is Amelia Reed. I'm 29, and for a few months I wasn't a person so much as a piece of furniture, a temporary paperweight with a pulse. My boyfriend brought his ex-girlfriend into the house I paid for while I was stuck in a wheelchair and said I couldn't be a real partner to him anymore. That's where this ends. But to understand how we got there and why tomato basil soup is now my personal supervillain origin story, let me back up. 7 months ago, I was a normal woman living a normal life. I worked as an accountant for a logistics company. Not glamorous, but stable. I had a neat little two-story in the suburbs with creaky stairs, a lemon tree in the backyard, and a mortgage entirely in my name. I'd bought the house a year before things got serious with my boyfriend, Jason. Jason and I had been together for 6 years. We were that couple people called solid. We had a shared friend group, matching mugs, a shared grocery app, and all the boring little domestic rituals that make you think, yeah, this is it. This is my person. I had no reason to suspect my life was about to get hit by a car, literally and metaphorically. Then some idiot ran a red light at 60 miles an hour. I was driving home from work on a Tuesday. It was raining lightly, the kind of drizzle that makes asphalt look like black glass. I remember thinking about spreadsheets and whether we had any coffee left in the pantry. Then there was a flash of headlights on my left. Too fast. Too close. I didn't even have time to swear. The impact on the driver's side was like being inside a soda can someone stomped on. Metal shrieked. Glass exploded. My world went sideways, and then nowhere at all. I came to in the ER under lights that were too bright and voices that were too calm. She's coming around. Miss Reed, can you hear me? Pain hit next. Not sharp, not localized, just everywhere, radiating out from my legs like someone had poured lava into my bones. Later, a doctor said words I'd only heard on medical dramas. Compound fractures, nerve damage, extensive trauma. He said it gently, like the tone could soften the meaning. The real punch in the gut came 3 days later, though, when my orthopedic surgeon sat down beside my hospital bed with that expression. Polite, professional dread. The damage to your legs is severe, Amelia, he said. We've stabilized the fractures, but there's significant nerve involvement. You're looking at months of recovery, maybe longer. How much longer? I asked. He did that thing where they look down at the chart even though they're not actually reading anything. It's hard to say. Some patients regain full mobility, others don't. We won't know until we see how you respond to treatment. So that was the menu. Maybe I walk normally again. Maybe I don't walk at all. Maybe I end up somewhere in between. Fun. 2 weeks later, they sent me home. Both of my legs were encased in casts from hip to ankle. I was confined to a wheelchair, my body suddenly a puzzle I couldn't solve. I couldn't get my own food, couldn't shower without help, couldn't even scratch the burning itch under my cast when it woke me up at 3 in the morning. You don't realize how much of your identity is tied to walking until you lose it. You go from independent adult woman to fragile cargo in one ambulance ride. Jason was there when they wheeled me out, standing between my parents and his. He looked like a movie poster version of a supportive boyfriend, jaw set, shoulders squared, one hand on the wheelchair, the other resting reassuringly on my shoulder. We've got you, he told me. We'll get through this, together. My mom cried. His mom dabbed at the corners of her eyes and said how lucky I was to have such a caring young man in my life. My dad looked at Jason the way dads do when they're trying to decide if they can stop worrying. For those first few days, Jason played the role of devoted caregiver flawlessly. When any parental unit was in the room, he'd fluff my pillows, adjust my blanket, ask if I needed water. He'd wheel me from the living room to the bedroom with soft little jokes like, "Chauffeur Reed at your service." If anyone else had walked in, they would have thought I'd hit the jackpot. Then everyone left. The last taillights disappeared down the street. The house went quiet in that weird way houses do after big family exits, like the walls were catching their breath. Jason closed the front door, leaned against it for a second, and exhaled. The concerned boyfriend mask slid off so fast it might as well have been on Velcro. His whole expression shifted. The softness drained from his face and was replaced by something flat and irritated, the way you look at a printer that keeps jamming. "I need to go to the store," he said. "Not a question, a declaration." "Okay," I said. "Can you help me get to the bedroom first? I'm really tired." He sighed. A long, theatrical gust of air, like I'd asked him to carry me up a mountain instead of down the hall. "Fine." He pushed the wheelchair harder than he needed to, parked me by the bed, helped me pivot onto the mattress with as little contact as possible, then walked out. That set the tone. The next days blurred together. Pain meds, physical therapy instructions, the dull ache of having too much time to think and not enough ability to move. Jason did the bare minimum. He brought food, but it was always rushed. A sandwich dropped on a plate, shoved onto the bedside table, just out of comfortable reach. If I asked him to move my leg a little or adjust my position so I wouldn't get sores, he'd roll his eyes, do it fast, and leave the room. One afternoon, after he'd snapped at me for asking him to help me to the bathroom, I finally said, "You know, this isn't exactly fun for me either." "Oh, I'm sorry," he shot back. "Is my frustration about becoming a full-time nurse inconvenient for you?" The word nurse came out like it tasted bad. I swallowed the response I wanted to make. The doctor had warned me stress could slow healing, and at that point, I was still trying to be understanding. He was adjusting too, right? This was hard on both of us. That's what I told myself. Besides, what was I going to do? Roll away aggressively? 2 weeks passed, then 3. Jason started going out more. "At least one of us has to keep living life," he said when I asked where he was going. "Guys' night. Work, drinks. Need to clear my head." He'd leave me parked in front of the TV with snacks and water bottles lined up like I was a toddler. Then he'd disappear for 6 hours. When he did come home, he'd smell like outside, bars and perfume and a hint of smoke that wasn't his. He started dressing better, new shirts I hadn't seen before, a watch I didn't buy. He'd take longer in the bathroom, doing his hair, checking his phone. Ah, yes, the phone. Jason's phone transformed from a normal object into a state secret. It was always face down, always locked, never left unattended. He'd take it into the shower like it was waterproof gold. The one time I absent-mindedly glanced in its direction when it buzzed, he snapped, "That's private," even though it was 3 feet away from me, and I literally couldn't stand up. Meanwhile, one of my friends, Dave, started coming by more. At first, it was to check in, as he put it. Then it became clear that check in really meant make sure you're eating and not stuck on the floor because someone forgot you exist. "Jason's not answering his phone," I told him once, trying to make it sound like a shrug instead of a plea. "Could you maybe move the wheelchair closer? I can't quite reach the kitchen counter from here." Dave didn't comment. He just moved the chair and then casually made me a proper meal, like it was nothing. The contrast was noticeable. The red flags didn't appear all at once. They showed up in little moments. Jason coming home smelling like cologne I didn't recognize. Jason refusing to grab my phone from the other room. Jason slamming my phone a little too hard into my lap when he finally did. Jason rolling his eyes every time I asked for help, as if my broken legs were a personal insult. I kept telling myself he was stressed, overwhelmed, scared. Then one night, around 9, the front door opened and I heard laughter. Not Jason's laugh alone, his plus a woman's. They came into view a moment later. Jason, hand on the small of another woman's back, and her, long hair, perfect makeup, the kind of confident posture that says, "I don't feel like a guest." "Oh," Jason said, stopping like I was an unexpected piece of furniture. "You're still up." "Still up, in my own living room." "What a concept," I said slowly. "Who's this?" The woman stepped forward with a practiced little smile. "Hey," she said, "I'm Brooke." My stomach dropped. Brooke, his ex-girlfriend. I'd heard about her in that hazy way you hear about people your partner used to love. Never in detail, always with a shrug. It was years ago, it was complicated, it was over. Apparently not over enough to keep her out of my house while I was sitting in a wheelchair. "What?" I asked, keeping my voice as steady as I could. "Is your ex doing here, Jason?" "She's here because I invited her," he said, like that was the end of the conversation. "We're just hanging out. She's been there for me. I've been under a lot of stress taking care of you." Taking care of me. Brooke's eyes flicked up and down my body, lingering just a second too long on the wheelchair. Her smile stayed in place, but thinned around the edges. "It's been hard on him," she said sweetly, "being responsible for everything." I looked at Jason, then at Brooke's hand on his back, then back at him. "Friends," I said, "don't touch each other like that in front of their disabled girlfriend." Brooke bristled. Jason's jaw tightened. "Don't start," he snapped. "You're being paranoid. You're stuck at home all day, overthinking everything. Brooke is just support. Support. Like a grab bar in the shower. Like crutches. Only I wasn't the one leaning on her. It should have turned into a screaming match. That's the dramatic version, right? The disabled girlfriend shrieking at the cheating boyfriend, the other woman throwing insults, dishes flying. That's not what happened. I stared at them both, and something in me went very quiet. This was my house, my name on the deed, my mortgage, my lemon tree outside. If she doesn't leave, I said calmly, I'm calling the police and telling them there's an unwanted person in my home refusing to leave, and I will show them the deed with my name on it. Brooke's eyes flicked to Jason. He opened his mouth. Are you serious right now? He demanded. Dead serious, I said. She goes now. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Brooke stepped back, shrugging like she was the bigger person. It's fine, she said. I'll go. You don't need this kind of drama, Jason. She walked toward the door. Jason followed, hissing under his breath. They stood in the hallway, whispering furiously. I couldn't hear the words, but I could hear the tone. Finally, the door closed behind her. Jason came back into the living room, eyes blazing. You're unbelievable, he snapped. You humiliated me. I humiliated you? I repeated. You brought your ex into my house while I'm in a wheelchair. Because I'm lonely, he shot back. Because you're... He stopped, but the word hung there, loaded. Because I'm what? I asked. He looked at me then, not at my face, but at the chair, at the casts, at the pile of pill bottles on the side table. Because you're broken, he said quietly. You can't walk. You can't go anywhere. You can't be a real partner right now. I need someone who can actually function, who can take me places, who doesn't need me for every little thing. There it was, the truth. Clean, simple, and absolutely brutal. I felt something inside me tear and then, strangely, settle. Okay, I said. He frowned. Okay, what? Okay, I hear you, I replied. Thanks for the honesty. He looked thrown, like he'd expected begging or tears or a long argument he could point to later as evidence that I was unstable. Instead, I just sat there in my wheelchair, absorbing the reality. This man saw me as broken inventory, a defective product he was stuck with until he could return it. Go hang out with Brooke, I said softly. I'm tired. He stared at me for a second, shook his head in disgust, and went upstairs. A few minutes later, I heard his voice through the ceiling, low and urgent, followed by laughter that didn't belong to me. I reached for my phone with hands that still worked just fine. I texted one person, me. Need your help with something. Not hospital stuff, serious stuff. Dave, what's up? Me. I'll tell you tomorrow. Can you come by at 10? Dave, I'll be there. Then I made 2 more calls, one to a lawyer and one to my bank. While Jason thought I was trapped, broken, helpless in a chair, I started planning my exit. Dave showed up at 10 on the dot the next morning, because of course he did. Jason had already left. No note, no, how are you feeling text, nothing. Just the echo of the front door and the faint smell of his cologne lingering in the hallway. Dave stepped into the living room, took one look at my face, and dropped the usual jokes. What happened? He asked, pulling a chair closer so we were eye level. I told him everything. Jason bringing Brooke into the house, the hand on her back, the soft, poisonous little comments about how hard this was on him, the way he'd looked at my wheelchair when he called me broken. Dave's expression hardened with every sentence. By the time I finished, his jaw was clenched so tight I could hear his teeth grind. Okay, he said finally. Do we need to bury a body, or are we going the legal route? Despite everything, I snorted. Legal, for now. He nodded like that was the right call, but not necessarily his favorite one. What do you need? He asked. I'd had all night to think about that. I need proof, I said. I need my money protected, and I need to make sure if he tries anything, I'm not the one who ends up blindsided. I told him about the voicemail I'd left for a lawyer and the call to the bank. The bank's sending someone this afternoon, I said. They're going to help me set up a separate account and make sure I don't do something that gets me destroyed in court later. Dave whistled low. You're not playing. I can't walk, I said, but I can sign paperwork. He gave me a quick grin. That's the most Amelia sentence I've ever heard. The bank rep came a few hours later, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a professional smile that didn't feel fake. We sat at the dining table. Well, she sat, I rolled up, and went through everything. Joint savings, joint checking, the mortgage entirely in my name. We can't legally let you empty joint accounts, she explained gently. Courts hate that, but you're entitled to move half into an individual account in your name. The other half stays where it is. Half is fine, I said. I just don't want to wake up one day and find out someone drained everything because he was stressed. She didn't comment, but her mouth tightened slightly. We signed forms. She checked IDs. When she left, I felt lighter, like I'd moved something heavy from a shaky shelf onto solid ground. After she was gone, Dave helped me with phase 2. Important documents, I said. Birth certificate, deed, insurance. It all needs to be somewhere he can't accidentally misplace. We spent the next hour with him doing the physical work and me directing from the wheelchair. File boxes, accordion folders, envelopes. I hadn't opened since closing on the house. We put everything into one big document folder. "Where do you want this?" Dave asked. "Either my parents' house or a safe deposit box," I said. "Somewhere he doesn't have a key to." "Your parents will ask questions." I shrugged. "They're going to find out sooner or later. Might as well have paperwork when I explain." He nodded. "Okay, I'll swing by there after this." Phase 3 was technically illegal in some relationships, but absolutely necessary in mine. Cameras. "Nothing creepy," I said. "No bedrooms, no bathrooms, just common areas. Living room, front door, kitchen. I don't want to spy on him. I want evidence." Dave pulled out his phone. "I know a guy." His guy showed up that afternoon with a small duffel bag and a business card that said Home Security Specialist in neat blue letters. He was efficient and non-judgmental, which I appreciated. We installed one camera high in the living room corner, one in the entryway angled at the front door, and one in the kitchen. They were small, discreet, easily forgotten until you needed them. "They're linked to this app," the tech explained, pairing my phone. "You'll get notifications for motion, and everything backs up to the cloud. Password protected." Perfect. As he left, Dave did a slow spin in the middle of the living room. "Congratulations," he said. "Your life is now officially a low-budget spy thriller." I smirked. If anyone's going to turn my life into a soap opera, it's not going to be Jason without receipts. By the time evening settled in, the house felt different. Still mine, still full of the same furniture and lemon-scented cleaner, but wired now, awake. Jason came home around 7, carrying takeout. "You eat yet?" he asked from the kitchen doorway. "Yeah," I said. "Dave brought something earlier." "Cool." That was it. No apology for the night before, no mention of Brooke. We ate separately. He at the kitchen island, scrolling through his phone. Me in the living room, pretending to care about a cooking show while I watched him on the tiny preview feed from the camera app. For 3 days, the pattern held. He left early, came back late. Work or friends or I just needed to get out of the house were his default explanations. He barely spoke to me unless I asked a direct question, and even then, his answers were clipped. I stopped asking. I used the silence to research divorce laws, disability protections, and how courts handled cheating when one partner was vulnerable. My lawyer and I finally connected on a longer call. When I told him about Jason bringing his ex over and calling me broken, he sounded energized. "Document everything," he said. "Messages, calls, any outbursts. And those cameras? Do not mention them to him. Just save the footage somewhere safe." I promised I would. On Wednesday night, everything snapped. I was in the living room doing the sad little set of upper body exercises my physical therapist had given me. Band pulls, modified push-ups from the arms of the wheelchair, core tighteners that made me shake. It was boring. It was painful. It was also the only thing in my day that felt like movement instead of decay. At around 8:30, the front door opened. The camera notification buzzed my phone a second before I heard their voices. Jason walked in. Brooke walked in right behind him. They filled the doorway like they owned it. Jason with his keys dangling from his fingers, Brooke with her hand on his arm, laughing at something he'd just said. They stopped when they saw me. Brooke's eyes flicked to the camera in the corner and then back to me, almost dismissive. She'd either forgotten it was there, or she didn't recognize what it was. Jason's mouth twisted into that annoyed line I'd come to know too well. "Really?" he said. "You can't do that somewhere else?" I looked down at my resistance band, then back up at him. "This is my living room," I said evenly. "I'll exercise wherever I want." Brooke shifted closer to him like she needed to physically pick a side. "We're going to hang out," she announced. "You should probably go to the bedroom. You look tired." I almost laughed. The audacity. "No," I said. Brooke blinked. "Excuse me?" I said no, I repeated. "I'm not going anywhere. This is my house. If anyone's leaving the room, it's you two." Jason took 2 steps forward, just enough to loom without actually getting close. "Look," he said, "we've been patient with your whole situation, but things are different now. Brooke and I—" He glanced at her, then back at me. "We're together," he said. "You need to accept that." The words hit harder than I expected, but not for the reason he thought. Not because I was shocked he'd moved on. He'd basically done it in front of me already. But because of the casual way he said it. Like changing his relationship status while I was still sharing his roof was as normal as changing a shirt. "You're together," I echoed, "while you still live in my house, while I'm sitting here in a wheelchair." He rolled his eyes. "Here we go," he muttered. Brooke put her hand on his shoulder, rubbing small circles into his back like she was soothing a child. Amelia, she said, voice syrup sweet, you have to understand. Jason has needs. You can't expect him to put his whole life on hold because of this. She waved vaguely in the direction of my legs. My casts might as well have been crime scenes from the way she avoided looking at them directly. Trembling started in my hands. I tightened my grip on the armrest to hide it. Get out, I said. Jason laughed once, disbelieving. Make me, he said. And that's when he said it. The line that would replay in my head at 3 a.m. for months afterward. He can't make you do anything, he told Brooke, smirking. And in his anger, he didn't even bother to get my pronouns right. Nothing in her works right now. She's useless. She can't walk, can't work properly, can't be a real girlfriend. That's why I need an actual woman beside me. Brooke's lips curled into a smug little smile. She nestled closer, like she'd just won something. The room went very quiet in my head. I reached for my phone. Who are you texting? Jason demanded. 911, I said. I dialed. 911, what's your emergency? A calm voice answered. Yes, I said, not taking my eyes off Jason and Brooke. I'm a disabled woman. I'm in a wheelchair. My boyfriend has brought his ex-girlfriend into my home. I've asked them to leave multiple times. They're refusing to go, and he's becoming verbally aggressive. I don't feel safe. Jason's face drained of color. Are they still there with you? The operator asked. Yes, I said. They're in my living room. Brooke stepped back, eyes wide. You're not serious. She's bluffing, Jason said, but his voice wobbled. The operator's tone sharpened. Officers are on the way, ma'am. Can you move to a secure area of the house? I can't move quickly, I said. I'm in a wheelchair. I'll stay where I am. Brooke hissed, Jason, we should go. She's not going to, he started, but blue and red lights were already painting the walls through the front window. The cameras picked up everything, their faces, my phone, the sudden panic. 2 officers walked in moments later, one male, one female. They took in the scene at a glance. Me in the wheelchair, Jason and Brooke standing over me, the tension thick enough to taste. Evening, the male officer said. We got a call about a disturbance. Brooke plastered on a smile so fast it was almost impressive. This is a misunderstanding, she began. I asked them to leave, I cut in. Repeatedly. This is my house. The deed is in my name. I'm disabled. He's been bringing her here and telling me I'm useless. The female officer's eyes flicked to my casts, then to Jason. Sir, she said, you live here? For now, he said. We're together. She's just being dramatic. She does this. Does what? I asked, my voice steady. Complain when you bring your girlfriend into my home and call me useless? The male officer sighed. Okay, let's slow down. Ma'am, he said to me, do you feel threatened right now? Yes, I said. If I stand up to them, I can't actually stand up. That's the problem. Brooke scoffed. She's manipulating you, she told the officers. She's weaponizing her wheelchair. The female cop's gaze sharpened. Weaponizing. Her wheelchair, she repeated, slowly, like she was making sure she'd heard that correctly. Jason shifted from foot to foot. Look, can we just go outside and talk? Yes, the male officer said. You 2 step outside with me. Let's get your side of the story out there. Brooke opened her mouth to argue, then caught sight of the officer's expression and thought better of it. They followed him out. The female officer stayed with me. Do you have proof this is your house? She asked gently. In the file cabinet behind you, I said. Blue folder labeled deed. And there are security cameras, living room, entryway, kitchen, all recording. Her eyebrows lifted. Smart. She checked the deed, nodded, and spoke into the radio clipped to her shoulder in those quick, coded phrases that might as well be another language. 10 minutes later, Jason and Brooke were back inside, this time with a whole different energy. Here's what's going to happen, the male officer said. Ma'am, he nodded to me, has the right to ask you to leave her property. You're going to do that. Now. And sir? He looked at Jason. Given the tension here, it would be a good idea for you to find somewhere else to stay, at least for tonight. This is ridiculous, Jason muttered. You can't just... We can, the officer said calmly. And we are. Brooke glared at me one last time, like I'd ruined her night instead of saving my sanity, and stalked toward the door. Jason hesitated, eyes burning. This isn't over, he said. You're right, I replied. It's just getting started. They left. The door closed. The house was quiet again, this time with the faint echo of police radios still ringing in the walls. I looked up at the camera in the corner, red recording light glowing faintly. For the first time since the accident, I didn't feel helpless. I felt dangerous. After Jason and Brooke stormed out under police escort, the house fell into a silence so complete I could hear the refrigerator humming. My heart was still hammering, but the chaos had settled into something colder, sharper. Not panic, not grief, focus. I wheeled myself into the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and sat there in the dim light, staring at the front door like it might start confessing. Jason had shown me exactly who he was, and now I was going to show him exactly who I could be. I didn't sleep that night. I wasn't even tired. I felt wired, humming with something like clarity. At 3 in the morning, I opened the camera app again and replayed the footage of Jason saying, "Nothing in her works right now. She's useless. She can't be a real girlfriend." I watched it twice, 3 times. Then I saved the clip to a hidden folder in the cloud and made a backup on an external drive Dave had brought earlier. Insurance, evidence, a weapon. By the time the sky began to pale with dawn, I'd drafted a plan, not perfect, not polished, but a structure, a way out. And a way to make sure Jason couldn't take anything else from me. Dave returns, and so does the steel in my voice. Dave arrived at 8, earlier than planned. He barely knocked, just pushed the door open. "You alive?" he asked. "Unfortunately for some people," I said. He let out a low whistle. "Jesus, Amelia, your energy this morning is terrifying." "I'm done waiting," I said. "I'm done hoping he'll magically become a decent human. I'm done giving him the benefit of the doubt." He pulled a chair over. "Okay, what's the move?" I opened the laptop on my lap tray. "Lawyer at 9, I'm filing paperwork today." Dave nodded slowly, approvingly. "And Jason?" he asked. "He won't know what's coming until it's already done." Dave gave me a look like he was considering a slow clap. The lawyer call, and the beginning of the end. At 9 sharp, my phone buzzed with an incoming call from the attorney, Mr. Hale. The same calming voice I'd spoken with the night before, now sounding more alert, more interested. "Morning, Amelia," he said. "You mentioned things escalated?" I didn't give him the highlight reel. I gave him the entire episode. Jason bringing Brooke home, the insults, the refusal to leave, the police involvement, the fact that everything was recorded on my security cameras. On the other end of the line, I heard a soft, delighted exhale. "Well," he said, "this is remarkably straightforward." I raised an eyebrow. "Straightforward?" "Yes," he continued. "You own the house. You have documented emotional neglect, infidelity, and aggressive behavior while you're medically vulnerable, and the police call is time-stamped and corroborated by officers. Legally, he has no footing, none." Hearing that, really hearing it, made something in my chest loosen, like a belt had finally been unclasped after being too tight for too long. "So what do I do first?" I asked. "First," the lawyer said, "we file for separation and begin proceedings to remove him from your home permanently. Second, we secure your finances. Third, we prepare for any retaliation. Men like this don't tend to go quietly." Dave snorted loudly enough for the phone to pick up. "Understatement of the year," he muttered. Mr. Hale continued, "Amelia, I'll draft everything today. I want you to remain calm, document any contact he attempts, and do not confront him directly." "I wasn't planning to," I said. I hung up feeling lighter and heavier all at once. The window of calm before the next storm. Jason didn't come home that night, or the next. He didn't text, didn't call, didn't ask where I was or whether I needed anything. Not even a performative check-in. But I knew he was watching. Not me, the house, the finances, the life he thought he was entitled to. On the third day, he finally broke the silence. At 10:12 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Jason, I need to talk." "Jason, can we be adults about this?" "Jason, you overreacted." "Jason, let's figure this out." I screenshotted everything and sent it to my lawyer. "Do not reply," he wrote back. So I didn't. The quiet felt like power. The second incident, caught on camera in 1080p. It was Friday when the next domino fell. I'd just finished my upper body routine, arms trembling, body slick with sweat. I was exhausted in a way that felt good, like my body was trying to reclaim something Jason thought he'd taken. Then the front door opened. Jason walked in first. Brooke walked in second. And my phone buzzed with the motion alert from the entry camera. I didn't even have time to roll myself away before they were in the living room. Jason's eyes flicked immediately to the wheelchair and narrowed, as if my very existence offended him. Brooke did a quick sweep of the living room and smiled that smug, victorious little smile she'd perfected. Jason exhaled dramatically. "Can we not do this again?" he said. "We could," I said calmly, "if you'd stop bringing your girlfriend into my home." Brooke crossed her arms. "I told you, Jason," she said. "She's going to make this difficult." Jason ignored her. I came to get some things, he said. Clothes, shoes, my watch, a few boxes. You could have texted, I said. You blocked me. No, I corrected. I'm just not replying. He gave a cold smile. Same thing. Brooke stepped closer, her perfume too sweet, too strong. You don't need to be rude, she said. We're trying to keep this civil. Civil? I repeated softly. Civil was before you showed up in my hallway with your hand on his back. Jason groaned. Amelia, stop making this emotional. You're not thinking clearly. Because I'm disabled? I asked quietly. That struck a nerve. He flinched. Because you're angry, he said. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive, I replied. He shook his head like I was the unreasonable one. Just move aside so I can grab my stuff. No, Brooke scoffed. She's impossible. Jason snapped. She can't stop me, he snapped. She can't do anything. Nothing in her works right now. I lifted my phone. He froze when he saw the little red recording light on the camera feed. Jason, I said, voice cold. Try finishing that sentence while you're on camera. Brooke looked up at the camera in the corner. She went pale. Jason swallowed hard. We're leaving, Brooke said abruptly. Jason didn't argue. They walked out. The front door slammed so hard the lemon tree outside shook. And then the text. At 12:17 a.m., Jason, that was uncalled for. Jason, you're making this worse. Jason, we need to talk before lawyers get involved. Jason, answer me. Jason, Amelia. Jason, stop ignoring me. I didn't answer a single one. Dave came by the next morning to check in and nearly whistled when he saw the unread message count. You're driving him insane, he said. Good, I replied. He spent months doing it to me. The first step toward freedom. That afternoon, the lawyer's email arrived. Papers drafted. Ready for your signature Monday morning. After that, he will be formally notified. Once served, he must vacate immediately. I sat there staring at the words. Served. Vacate immediately. The wheelchair suddenly felt less like a prison and more like a chariot. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was steering. And Jason had no idea how quickly it was all about to fall apart for him. Monday morning arrived with a strange mix of dread and exhilaration, like the air right before a thunderstorm. Dave picked me up, wheeled me down the ramp he'd built last month, and loaded my chair into the back of his SUV. You ready? He asked as he buckled me in. Readier than he is, I said. Dave grinned. Let's go ruin a man's week. The signing and the shift. Mr. Hale's office sat on the 4th floor of a brick building downtown, all polished wood, soft lighting, and the faint smell of expensive paper. He greeted us warmly and helped Dave maneuver my chair close to his desk. Amelia, he said, sliding a stack of documents toward me. Everything is prepared. We'll file as soon as you sign. I expected my hands to shake. They didn't. Pen in hand, I signed each page slowly and deliberately, the scratch of ink somehow louder than the actual traffic outside. Every signature felt like reclaiming a piece of my life Jason had tried to turn into debris. When I finished, Mr. Hale smiled with genuine approval. That's it, he said. He'll be served within 48 hours. Once served, he must vacate your property. No exceptions. A breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding left my lungs. Dave placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. You good? I am, I said, and for the first time in a long time, it felt true. Jason gets served, and the meltdown begins. He didn't take it well. I didn't witness the moment myself. My lawyer handled that. But according to the server's report and the text that came afterward, Jason reacted exactly the way fragile men do when someone sets a boundary. Petulance, denial, rage, desperation. It unfolded over 2 days in rapid succession. Day 1. Denial and justification. Jason, are you serious right now? Jason, we can talk about this. Jason, you're overreacting. Jason, you know you can't actually kick me out. Day 2. Rage. Jason, WTF is wrong with you? Jason, after everything I did. Jason, I was stressed. Jason, you made me act that way. Jason, this is your fault. Day 2. Desperation. Jason, please don't do this, Jason. I don't have anywhere else to go. Jason, Brooke isn't picking up, Jason. Can we please talk, Jason? Amelia, please. I didn't reply. Not once. Every message went straight to my lawyer and stayed sealed in a folder labeled Receipts. Brooke breaks her silence. Then Brooke texted me. Yep, his ex, his new girlfriend, his accessory. Her message read, Brooke, I don't know what Jason told you, but this is extreme, Brooke. He didn't mean what he said. Brooke, you're making his recovery a lot harder. Brooke, can you at least let him get the rest of his things? I stared at the screen, then put the phone down without typing a single letter. Brooke wasn't my problem. Jason wasn't my responsibility, and their relationship was none of my concern, except for one beautifully petty detail. He and Brooke were already starting to crack. Good. Let them. The first real step, literally. 2 weeks into the separation process, my physical therapist finally cleared me for weight-bearing exercises. Let's try standing today, she said gently. I gripped the parallel bars, palms sweating. My legs throbbed before I even put weight on them. For a brief moment, fear shot through me. Fear of failing, fear of falling, fear of hearing Jason's voice snarling in my head. Nothing in her works right now. I shut that thought down with fire. 1 second, my therapist said. I pushed. Pain tore through me. White hot, screaming pain. But beneath it, something held. Something solid. My legs trembled violently, but they held me. 2 seconds. 3. 5. My therapist's voice was emotional. You're standing, Amelia. You're standing. I wasn't graceful, I wasn't steady. But I was upright. Tears blurred my vision, not from the pain, from the victory, from the knowledge that Jason was wrong. Everything that mattered still worked. The cane, and the first glimpse of freedom. By week 4, I could take 3 shaky steps with the therapist bracing me. By week 6, I was walking short distances with a walker. By week 8, something miraculous happened. I took 5 steps with just a cane. My therapist clapped, proud and misty-eyed. Dave filmed it, with my permission, and yelled, "That's my girl!" We celebrated with takeout and a movie. No drama, no tension, just friends and joy. When I went to bed that night, I didn't cry from sadness. I cried from pride. The house feels different without him. The more I healed, the more the house healed too. I could wheel myself to the kitchen without dread. The air felt clearer, the corners brighter. I started rearranging furniture subtly, putting things back the way I liked them before Jason optimized the space for himself. I slept better, ate better, worked better. My productivity skyrocketed. My boss emailed me saying, "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. We'd like to discuss a potential promotion." Imagine that, thriving without the man who claimed I couldn't function. The neighbors talk, and news about Jason spreads. Without me asking, the universe sent updates. My neighbor across the street casually mentioned that Jason had been seen carrying duffel bags into a dingy apartment complex with Brooke trailing behind him, looking frustrated. Dave heard from a mutual acquaintance that Jason had been skipping work, filing complaints, acting erratic. Brooke, apparently, had started blowing through savings at alarming speed. Someone said they were fighting publicly, loudly. A tiny flame of satisfaction flickered inside me. I didn't fan it, but I didn't put it out either. The sign I didn't expect. One morning, while practicing cane walking in the hallway, I passed the kitchen and caught my reflection in the window. Standing, breathing, alive. And for the first time since the accident, I realized something extraordinary. I wasn't just healing. I was rebuilding. Jason had taken advantage of my weakest moment. But now, I was getting stronger. And something told me he hadn't hit his weakest moment yet. By the time fall rolled around, I was walking, awkwardly, slowly, painfully, but walking. A cane in my right hand, stubborn hope holding up the left. Every step felt like reclaiming a piece of myself Jason had tried to strip away. Life was finally quiet, peaceful, and then the doorbell rang. Not once, not twice, 5 times. Dave was over that night, sprawled on my couch, eating chips and narrating some terrible reality show like a sports game. He froze mid-crunch when the doorbell went off again, longer this time. "You expecting someone?" he asked. "No," I said, and my stomach tightened. He reached for the remote to pause the TV. I reached for my cane. The door camera pinged on my phone, and there he was. Jason, standing on my porch with his hair a mess, dark circles under his eyes, and a plastic container of something in his hands. Dave leaned over my shoulder to look. "Is that soup?" "Oh, you've got to be kidding me," I muttered. I opened the door, but not all the way, just enough to look him in the eye. Jason forced a smile that looked like it was held together by tape. "Hey," he said softly, "you look good. Better." I didn't say anything. He held out the container like an offering. I made you tomato basil, your favorite." I blinked. "That soup? The one I used to cook for him when he was sick. The one I'd made on our anniversaries. The one he'd told Brooke was grossly overrated." My silence stretched. Jason swallowed hard. "Can we talk? Just 5 minutes, please." Behind me, Dave appeared like an avenging angel. Out here or inside? He asked. Outside, I said sharply. Jason flinched at my tone, then stepped back to give me space. I walked out with my cane, Dave right behind me. The cold air bit at my skin, but it felt safer out here than letting him inside my house again. Jason cleared his throat. I've been doing a lot of thinking, he said. About everything. I messed up, badly. I know that. I didn't respond. He continued, the words spilling out fast. Brooke's gone. She left last month. Took money, disappeared. I got evicted. My job's on thin ice, and I just needed to see you, to apologize. It was the closest he'd ever come to remorse, but it felt hollow, fragile, like he wasn't sorry he hurt me, just sorry that his new life collapsed faster than he expected. You disappeared, he added quietly, and then I saw you at the grocery store a few weeks ago. You were walking. With a cane, but walking. I didn't know you were getting better. Ah, there it was, the trigger. Not guilt, not nostalgia, not accountability. Mobility. I raised an eyebrow. So you came back because I can walk now? No, he said quickly. No, that's not... Okay, maybe seeing you walking made me realize how much I messed up, how much I lost. Behind me, Dave mumbled, wow, amazing logic. Jason shot him a glare. Can you give us a second? No, Dave said evenly. I'm good right here. I focused on Jason. You told me nothing in me worked, I said calmly. That I was useless, broken, not a real partner. You brought your ex into my house while I was in a wheelchair. I know, he whispered. I was overwhelmed. I wasn't thinking straight. I was scared. You weren't scared, I corrected. You were inconvenienced. Jason's face crumpled. Can we please start over? I'll go to therapy. I'll do whatever you want. I almost laughed. You had 6 years to be decent, I said, and 3 months to fix things before the accident broke me. The only thing that changed is that now I'm standing. Jason took a shaky step nearer. Just take the soup, he said, holding the container out again. Please. I looked at the container like it was a live grenade. No, I said simply. And that single syllable cracked something in him. His eyes hardened, his jaw clenched. The sorrow evaporated, replaced by something mean and familiar. You're unbelievable, he snapped. After everything I did for you. Dave barked out a laugh. Buddy, there's not enough screen time to unpack that. Jason glared at him again, then turned back to me. Take the soup. No, I repeated. His face twisted, and then, in one impulsive, pathetic move, he threw it at me. The container arced through the air, lid popping off, soup sloshing out. Instinct made me try to catch it. My left hand grazed the container, knocking it sideways. The plastic slipped through my fingers. And all that tomato basil deliciousness? Most of it hit him, right in the chest. Some splattered on my arm and cane. A few droplets hit my porch. Jason screamed. The scream was so dramatic that Dave actually took a step back and whispered, Is he melting? It's hot, Jason yelped. It burned me. Dave bent down, dipped his finger into a blob of soup on the ground, and tasted it. It's warm, he said. Warm, like room temperature. Jason sputtered. You made me spill it. You threw it at me, I said. I tried to catch it. Dave added, Honestly, she did you a favor. Tomato stains on that shirt? That's an upgrade. Jason's face twisted with rage. That's it, he said. I'm not leaving until we talk about this. About us. No, I said again. He took a step forward. That's when my survival instinct snapped back online. I pulled out my phone. 911, I said clearly. Jason froze. Amelia, don't. Please don't. The operator answered. 911, what's your emergency? I have an ex-partner on my property, I said, loud and clear. He's trespassing and threw an object at me. I'm disabled and feel unsafe. Jason's voice jumped an octave. I didn't. It was soup. Dave whispered, That's not helping your case, champ. The cops arrive again. This time, 2 officers arrived in less than 10 minutes. And when they saw Jason standing there covered in tomato basil with basil chunks stuck to his hair, they tried so hard not to laugh. The younger officer cleared his throat. Sir, were you aware this was being recorded? Jason blinked. What? I pointed to the camera by the door. Everything's captured. The older officer nodded. Ma'am, would you like to press charges? Just a restraining order, I said, and I want him gone. Jason exploded. Are you serious? Over soup? Dave deadpanned. Weaponized soup. The younger cop. Assault with a liquid is still assault, sir. Jason sputtered so hard, I thought he'd short-circuit. The officers escorted him to his car, advising him not to return. He drove off, still dripping marinara misery. And just like that, it was over. I stood there, literally stood, leaning on my cane while Dave whistled low. You know, he said, if karma had a scent, I bet it'd smell exactly like tomato basil. I laughed. For the first time in months, I laughed so hard my ribs hurt. Inside, the house felt warm. Not because of Soup, because he was gone. For real this time. For good. Jason didn't just leave that night. He disappeared, at least from my vicinity and, thank every deity imaginable, from my front porch. But I knew better than to assume he'd actually let go. Men like Jason don't handle consequences gracefully. They just retreat long enough to regroup. Still for the moment, silence. And silence tasted better than any soup he could have brought. The restraining order, officially making the cut. The next morning, Dave drove me to the courthouse. I walked in with my cane, slow, steady, deliberate, and filed the paperwork for a temporary restraining order. The clerk handed me a stack of forms thicker than my wrist. "Do you have evidence?" she asked. Dave and I exchanged a look so perfectly synchronized it could have been choreographed. "Yes," I said, "video, texts, police reports, and soup." She blinked. "Soup?" Dave nodded solemnly. "Weaponized tomato basil." The clerk paused, stared at us for 3 seconds too long, then kept typing. The restraining order was granted provisionally within hours. Jason was served the next day. I didn't see it happen, but the neighbor across the street, Mr. Delgado, later told me, "Your ex looked like someone had unplugged him from the wall. Pale, shaky, soup situation all over again." Good. Let him be unplugged. I'd spent months feeling powerless while he stomped around the house I paid for. A few judicial volts to his system was long overdue. Brooke and Jason, the downward spiral. Word travels fast in suburbia, especially when one of the players storms out in a tomato-stained crisis. It started with whispers. Jason wasn't living with Brooke anymore. Brooke had taken money from him. Jason had been missing shifts at work. Someone heard shouting outside their apartment complex. Someone else said Brooke's Instagram suddenly went private. Then Dave brought the real tea. Apparently, Brooke had drained what little savings Jason had left, money he'd bragged about using for a fresh start, and invested it into a scam. A bad one. The kind that promised 400% returns and exclusive opportunities. Within weeks, the investment vanished, along with Brooke. Jason was left holding the overdrafted accounts and eviction notices. "He really has a type," I told Dave. Dave nodded. "Unstable, self-centered, and financially disastrous?" "Exactly." Jason eventually lost his apartment, then his job, then whatever dignity he had left. I didn't rejoice in his ruin, but I didn't pity him either. He'd built the fire himself. I'd just stopped being his firewood. Meanwhile, I kept walking. Physical therapy became my religion. Every week, I pushed harder. Every week, pain turned into endurance. Endurance turned into progress. Progress turned into freedom. 5 steps became 10. 10 became 20. Cane-assisted walks transformed from trembling survival into steady motion. One morning, in the therapy center's parallel bars, the physical therapist said, "Let's try turning without support." My heart jumped. Without anything? With the cane. Just pivot, slowly. I tried. My legs shook, my balance swayed. But I turned. A full, wobbly, perfect pivot. My therapist clapped so loudly it startled a patient 3 rooms over. I cried in the car afterward, not from pain, but from victory. Every step was a middle finger to Jason's words. Nothing in her works right now. Turns out plenty of things worked. Sierra. The promotion. My ex never believed in. Work noticed my progress too. My boss called me into a video meeting. Not to check on my medical leave. Not to gently suggest reduced workload. But to offer me a promotion. "You've been performing beyond expectations," she said. "Once you're fully back, we'd like you to take over senior account management." I stared at her, stunned. Jason once told me I wasn't ambitious, that I played too small. Funny how being away from him made me bigger. I accepted the promotion. Dave insisted on celebratory takeout. We ordered Thai, no soup. The day he returned and found nothing left to take. It was 3 months after the soup incident when Jason tried to contact me again. He sent a single text. "Jason, can we talk? Just talk." I forwarded it to the police and blocked him. 24 hours later, an officer called. "Ms. Reed, we spoke with Jason. He was hoping for closure. We reminded him the restraining order prohibits all contact. He claims he didn't mean harm." "Did he say anything else?" I asked. The officer hesitated. "He said he regrets what happened, that he thinks your improvement means maybe you can try again." I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my cane. "Thanks for letting me know," I said once I regained my composure. When the call ended, I leaned against the counter, breathing deep. Closure? We'd close that chapter with soup. The final update, and the life after him. Jason never reached out again. Maybe the restraining order scared him. Maybe he finally realized I wasn't his doormat. Maybe karma just got bored of punishing him and moved on. Whatever the reason, he vanished. Brooke resurfaced months later only to get arrested for the scam she'd dragged Jason into. He was left with debt collectors, a tainted work record, and the realization that the real woman he replaced me with wasn't real at all. Meanwhile, I kept choosing myself. I kept walking. I kept healing. New love. Quiet. Healthy. Uneventful in the best way. Almost a year after the divorce finalized, I started dating again. Cautiously. Carefully. And eventually, I met someone. His name is Evan. He didn't flinch when I told him about the accident. He didn't blink when I explained the scars. He didn't ask whether the cane was permanent. He only asked whether it hurt and how he could help make life easier. We go slow. We take our time. And he never makes me feel like a burden. Sometimes I catch myself waiting for Jason's ghost, expecting a sigh or eye roll or cutting remark. But Evan is gentle, and I'm learning gentleness is strength, not weakness. And the soup? I never ate tomato basil again. Not because it traumatized me. Because every time I walk past it in the grocery store, I smile to myself and think, I weaponized my healing better than he weaponized that soup. Last words to you. Yes, you reading this. If you've ever been someone's backup plan, their caretaker, their emotional punching bag, if you've ever been blamed for your own vulnerability, if you've ever had someone tell you nothing in you works, I hope this story is the reminder you needed. You get to write your recovery. You get to choose who stays. You get to walk again. Even if it starts with one painful, trembling step. And hey, never underestimate a woman with receipts.